Anna and her 6-year-old daughter Mia have called Havenbrook Family Shelter home for the past 3 months. The shelter, a modest red brick building tucked away on the edge of the city, offers temporary refuge to families like theirs, those caught in the quiet grip of homelessness. For Anna, a 32-year-old single mother, each day begins long before the sun rises, in the dim glow of a shared dormitory room where thin curtains do little to block the hallway lights or the sounds of other families stirring. Mornings at Havenbrook are a whirlwind of controlled chaos. The alarm on Anna's phone buzzes softly at 5:45 a.m., careful not to wake the neighboring cots too abruptly. She slips out of the narrow bunk bed she shares with Mia, her body already heavy with fatigue that never fully lifts. The communal bathroom down the hall is already crowded. Mothers brushing teeth, children rubbing sleep from their eyes, the faint scent of institutional soap mixing with the aroma of instant coffee brewing in the kitchenette. Anna moves quickly, helping Mia into yesterday's clothes, the only clean ones left until laundry day tomorrow, braiding her daughter's hair with practiced fingers while whispering gentle encouragements. There is a constant undercurrent of quiet humiliation woven into these routines. Anna feels it every time she lines up for the communal breakfast of oatmeal and bruised fruit, her meal ticket clutched in her hand like a fragile permission slip. She notices the sideways glances from staff, the way some volunteers speak a little too slowly, as if poverty has also dulled comprehension. She hates how she must ask for basic necessities, diapers, toothpaste, a pair of shoes that actually fit Mia's growing feet, and how each request feels like an admission of failure. Yet she swallows the shame because Mia is watching, always watching, and Anna refuses to let her daughter see her break. Mia, for her part, carries a small but fierce resilience that both breaks and sustains Anna's heart. At 6 years old, she already understands more than she should. She knows not to complain when the shower runs cold, or when the television in the common room is locked to educational channels only. Instead, she invents games to pass the long hours, drawing elaborate pictures on scrap paper, whispering stories to her one stuffed bear, or curling up beside her mother during mandatory group meetings. When Anna's shoulders slump after another fruitless job search or a denied housing application, Mia slips her small hand into her mother's and says things like, "It's okay, Mommy. We're together. That's the important part." Those words, delivered in a soft, serious voice, pierce Anna deeper than any hardship. She wonders how a child so young learned to comfort the adult who is supposed to protect her. The emotional weight of their poverty presses down constantly, heavy and unrelenting. It shows in the way Anna's hands tremble when she counts the few dollars left in her envelope, calculating how far they must stretch until her next assistance check. It lingers in the background noise of the shelter, crying babies, muffled arguments behind closed doors, the occasional sharp bark of frustration from a parent at the end of their rope. At night, when the lights dim and the building settles into an uneasy quiet, Anna lies awake beside her sleeping daughter, staring at the cracked ceiling tiles. She replays the series of events that led them here: the sudden layoff, the medical bills that followed Mia's asthma flare-ups, the landlord's final eviction notice taped to their old apartment door. Each memory feels like a stone added to the load she carries. Yet even in this place of last resort, small moments of humanity flicker through. A volunteer who remembers Mia's favorite color and brings her a purple crayon. Another mother in the next bunk who shares a spare blanket without being asked. Mia's shy smile when she manages to make a new friend during playtime in the cramped activity room. These fragments remind Anna that they are not invisible, not entirely forgotten. Still, the shelter is not a home. It is a pause, a fragile temporary space where survival demands constant vigilance and where hope feels both essential and dangerously distant. For Anna, the hardest part is not the lack of privacy or the rigid rules or even the exhaustion. It is watching her daughter grow up in a world that requires her to be brave far too soon. Every day, Anna promises herself, and Mia, that this chapter will end, That one day they will have a door they can lock behind them, a kitchen table to eat at together, a future built on something more solid than gratitude for a roof overhead. Until then, they navigate the mornings together, one quiet act of courage at a time. The late morning sun hung low and pale over Havenbrook Family Shelter, doing little to warm the cracked asphalt of the parking lot. Most days, the lot stayed empty, except for the dented shelter van and a few volunteers' modest cars. That was why every head turned when a gleaming black sedan, polished to a mirror finish, windows tinted almost to opacity, glided through the chain-link gate and stopped directly in front of the main entrance. The engine cut off with a soft, expensive sigh. Anna was kneeling on the floor of the activity room, helping Mia stack mismatched wooden blocks into a wobbly tower when the murmurs started. Through the large window, she saw the car first, then the driver, a stern man in a charcoal suit and cap, step out and open the rear door with white-gloved precision. Out came Madame Evelyn Harrington. Even at a distance, she was unmistakable. Tall, ramrod straight, silver hair swept into an immaculate chignon. A camel hair coat that probably cost more than the shelter's entire monthly food budget draped over her shoulders. She moved like someone who had never once in her 71 years needed to glance down to check where her feet were going. The ground simply rearranged itself to meet her. A single strand of pearls caught the weak sunlight and threw it back like a warning. Anna's stomach lurched. She had not seen her mother-in-law in 6 years. Not since the funeral. Not since Evelyn had looked straight through her, as if Anna were a smudge on the chapel window, and declared, "You will manage, I'm sure." There had been no birthday cards for Mia, no child support checks, no phone calls, nothing. And now here she was, descending upon the shelter like a battleship in full dress. Mia tugged at Anna's sleeve. "Mommy, who's the fancy lady?" Before Anna could answer, the activity room door swung open, and the shelter manager, Mrs. Delgado, appeared, flustered and smoothing her apron. "Anna, there's someone here to see you, in the family meeting room. She says it's urgent." Anna stood slowly, brushing dust from her knees, feeling every eye in the room on her. She took Mia's hand, small fingers sticky from breakfast, and walked the long hallway that smelled of bleach and canned green beans. Each step echoed louder than the last. Madame Evelyn was already seated when they entered the cramped meeting room, legs crossed at the ankle, gloved hands resting on the silver head of an ebony cane she certainly didn't need for walking. The fluorescent light made her cheekbones look sharper, almost dangerous. She did not rise. She did not smile. "Close the door, please," she said to Mrs. Delgado, who obeyed instantly and retreated. For a moment, the only sound was the hum of the vending machine in the corridor. Evelyn's gaze moved from Anna to Mia and lingered there, taking in the child's uncombed curls, the 2 small sneakers with the hole beginning at the toe, the faint purple shadows under her granddaughter's eyes. Something flickered across the older woman's face, too quickly to name. Then she looked back at Anna, and her voice cut through the room like a blade sliding from its sheath. "Explain yourself," Anna swallowed. I'm sorry, Madame Evelyn. I wasn't expecting—" "That much is obvious." Evelyn's eyes swept the peeling paint on the walls, the plastic chairs, the box of donated toys in the corner. "Why are you living here? Why aren't you in the house on Evergreen Lane?" The words landed between them like a live grenade. Anna felt the floor tilt. Evergreen Lane. She had never heard of Evergreen Lane. Not once. Not from her late husband. Not from any document. Not in 6 years of scraping by on minimum wage jobs and government assistance while she tried to keep Mia fed and safe. There must be some mistake," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "We were evicted from our apartment. I don't know anything about a house." Evelyn's perfectly arched eyebrow rose a fraction. "Don't be absurd. The deed was transferred into your name the day after my son died. Joint tenancy with right of survivorship. All taxes, insurance, and utilities have been paid automatically from the family trust ever since. The keys were mailed to you. Certified mail. Return receipt requested. You signed for them yourself. Anna's knees buckled. She caught the edge of the table to keep from falling. Mia pressed closer to her side, sensing the tremor running through her mother's body. I never received any keys, Anna said, the words scraping out raw. There was no mail, no letter, nothing. After the funeral, you told me the estate was tied up in probate for years. You said there was nothing left after the medical debts. A long silence stretched, cold and dangerous. Evelyn's gloved fingers tightened almost imperceptibly on the cane. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter, but no less commanding. Probate, she repeated, tasting the word as though it had suddenly turned bitter. I see. Anna stared at her mother-in-law, at this woman who had once looked at her with icy contempt and declared her unfit, unworthy, a temporary inconvenience in her son's life, and felt the ground shift beneath her feet for the second time in as many minutes. Someone had lied. Someone had stolen 6 years of their lives. And for the first time since she had walked into this shelter carrying everything she owned in 2 duffel bags, Anna felt something sharper than exhaustion ignite inside her chest. It felt dangerously close to fury. The flashback opens 6 months before the black sedan pulled into the shelter parking lot, back when Anna still believed she could rebuild from the wreckage of her husband's death, back when home was a word that hadn't yet turned sour in her mouth. Anna had landed a steady job as a medical billing clerk at a mid-sized clinic downtown. The pay wasn't generous, but it came with health insurance that covered Mia's asthma inhalers and the occasional urgent care visit. For the first time in 2 years, Anna could breathe, literally and figuratively. Rent on their small 1-bedroom apartment had become manageable. Groceries no longer required rationing. Mia could have new crayons without Anna calculating the cost down to the cent. It wasn't luxury. It was fragile, hard-won stability. Then the apartment building was sold to new owners who doubled the rent with 30 days' notice. Anna couldn't afford the increase, not without dipping into the emergency fund she had sworn never to touch. She weighed her options for exactly 1 sleepless night before calling her mother. Helen answered on the second ring, voice bright and practiced. Of course you can stay with us, sweetheart. Just until you get back on your feet. We have the guest room. Bring Mia. We miss her. Richard, her father, was quieter on the line, but added his usual gruff approval. Family takes care of family. Anna accepted with gratitude so deep it hurt. She packed their lives into boxes again, told herself this was temporary, told Mia it would be an adventure. Like a long sleepover at Grandma and Grandpa's house. Mia, wide-eyed and trusting, believed her. The first weeks were almost bearable. Helen fussed over Mia's meals, insisting on vegetables and whole grains. Richard taught Mia how to play checkers on the old board in the den. Anna came home from work to the smell of dinner cooking and, for a fleeting moment, felt something close to relief. But the cracks appeared quickly. It started with small corrections. Helen would sigh when Anna reached for convenience foods at the grocery store. You know, processed things aren't good for growing children. Richard would mutter about Anna's lifestyle choices whenever she mentioned dating apps or the possibility of going out with coworkers after work. They framed every comment as concern, every suggestion as help. Then the comments sharpened. You're lucky we took you in, Helen would say when Anna came home 5 minutes late because the bus was delayed. Most parents wouldn't be so generous after everything that's happened. Richard began monitoring the thermostat, turning it down to 62 degrees at night and telling Anna, You're too soft on the girl. She needs to learn to toughen up. When Mia shivered under the thin blanket, Anna quietly turned it back up. The next morning, she found the dial locked with a small combination pad she hadn't noticed before. They started questioning her parenting in front of Mia. Why does she still need a nightlight at 6? Helen asked one evening, loud enough for Mia to hear from the hallway. She's not a baby anymore. You're coddling her. Richard would interrupt Anna mid-sentence during dinner. That's not how we raised you. No wonder things fell apart. Anna tried to stay calm, to set boundaries. She thanked them for their help, reminded them this was temporary, promised she was saving every extra dollar for a new place. But the more she asserted herself, the more they tightened their grip. They began withholding small privileges. The Wi-Fi password changed without explanation. When Anna asked, Helen smiled thinly and said, "We're trying to cut down on screen time, for everyone's health." Mia's favorite cartoons disappeared from the television. Richard replaced them with documentaries about personal responsibility. When Anna protested, Helen's voice dropped to that dangerous, velvet soft tone she used when she was most angry. "We're doing this for Mia's sake. You should be grateful instead of fighting us every step." The gaslighting crept in like damp rot. Anna would come home to find her work clothes moved, her alarm clock unplugged, her keys placed in a different drawer. When she asked, Helen would tilt her head and say, "You must have done it yourself, honey. You've been so stressed lately. You forget things." Richard would deny conversations that had happened only hours earlier. "I never said that. You're twisting my words again." Mia began to shrink. She stopped asking for seconds at dinner. She stopped showing Anna the drawings she made at school. She started apologizing preemptively for spilling water, for talking too loudly, for existing in a house that had begun to feel like a cage. The breaking point came on a cold Thursday night in July. Anna had worked a double shift to cover an unexpected copay for Mia's new nebulizer. She arrived home at 10:17 p.m., exhausted, carrying takeout bags because the kitchen had been closed early, as a lesson in planning ahead. The front door was unlocked, which was unusual. Inside, the house was dark, except for the porch light spilling through the living room window. Two large black garbage bags sat in the hallway beside the front door. Anna's name was written on them in thick black marker, her mother's handwriting. She opened one. Inside were her clothes, Mia's stuffed animals, the few books they still owned, a tangle of charging cords. Everything they had brought with them, stuffed in haphazardly. Footsteps came from the upstairs landing. Helen stood at the top of the stairs in her silk robe, arms folded. "You need to leave," she said calmly, as though announcing the time. "Tonight!" Anna's voice cracked. "What are you talking about?" "You've overstayed your welcome," Richard called from somewhere behind Helen. "We've been more than patient." "But I'm saving. I'm this close to—" Helen cut her off. "You've said that for months. Meanwhile, you come and go at all hours. You let Mia run wild. You disrespect our rules. We can't live like this anymore." Anna looked down at Mia, who had appeared silently beside her, clutching her bear. The child's eyes were huge, dry, and far too old. "Mommy?" Mia whispered. Anna knelt, tried to smile. "It's okay, baby. We're just going for a little walk." Helen descended 2 steps. "You can take the bags. The rest we'll donate. Don't make a scene." Anna stood slowly. Something inside her, something that had been bending for weeks, finally snapped clean in two. "You're throwing your granddaughter out," she said, voice low and shaking, "in the middle of the night, with nowhere to go." Richard appeared at Helen's side. "You made your choices, Anna. Live with them." They didn't shout. They didn't need to. Their calm was the cruelest part. Anna gathered Mia against her hip, grabbed one bag, then the other. She walked to the door, on legs that felt borrowed. When she turned to look back, Helen was already closing it. The lock clicked with a soft, final sound. Outside, the street was quiet. Streetlights buzzed overhead. Mia pressed her face into Anna's shoulder and began to cry. Small, hiccuping sobs that tore through Anna worse than any scream could have. Anna stood on the sidewalk, holding everything they still owned, staring at the house where she had grown up, where she had once believed love was unconditional. She did not cry. Not then. Instead, she whispered into Mia's hair, "We're going to be okay. I promise." Then she started walking, toward the only place she could think of that might still take them in at this hour. The 24-hour bus station 3 miles away, where the night shift security guard sometimes let tired mothers sit inside until morning. Behind them, the porch light flicked off. The house went dark. And 6 months later, when a polished black sedan would pull up to a family shelter, and an elegant older woman would ask why Anna wasn't living in a house she had never known existed, the betrayal would finally begin to make a terrible kind of sense. The black sedan idled outside a small, tired diner on the edge of the industrial district. Chrome trim dulled by years of exhaust, neon sign flickering, Open 24 HRS, in red and blue. Madam Evelyn Harrington had instructed her driver to wait in the car. She preferred privacy for what came next. Inside, the place smelled of burnt coffee and fryer grease. A handful of late-afternoon regulars hunched over plates of meatloaf and pie. No one looked twice at the silver-haired woman in the camel hair coat who slid into the last booth by the window. She set her phone on the Formica tabletop, removed one glove with deliberate care, and dialed a number she had not used in years. Evergreen Property Management, this is Carla speaking. Carla, Evelyn Harrington. I need the current status on the residence at 1427 Evergreen Lane. Immediate verbal report. There was a brief, startled pause on the other end, the kind that comes when someone recognizes a name tied to significant money and even more significant expectations. Of course, Mrs. Harrington. One moment. Keyboard clicks filled the silence. The property is currently occupied under a month-to-month lease agreement. Rent is current, paid automatically via ACH from an account in the name of Helen Whitaker. Last payment posted 3 days ago. Utilities are bundled into the rent per the lease terms. No maintenance requests outstanding in the past 6 months. Evelyn's free hand rested lightly on the edge of the table. Her manicured nails made the faintest tap against the surface. And the keys? She asked. Initial keys were signed out on. Another brief pause, pages turning in the background. October 17th, 6 years ago. The sign-out sheet shows Helen Whitaker. She provided identification and signed the receipt in person. No subsequent key requests or rekeys on record. Evelyn closed her eyes for exactly 2 seconds. When she opened them again, the diner around her had not changed, yet everything had. Thank you, Carla. Send the full lease file, payment history, and sign-out documentation to my secure email. I expect them within the hour. Yes, ma'am. Right away. The line went dead. Evelyn sat motionless for another full minute, staring at the steam rising from the untouched cup of black coffee the waitress had set down without asking. Then she picked up the phone again and dialed a different number, one she still knew by heart, though she had not spoken the digits aloud in just as long. Helen answered on the third ring. Her voice was bright, almost musical. Mother? What a surprise! Is everything all right? Evelyn did not return the warmth. I've just come from Havenbrook Family Shelter. Your daughter and my granddaughter have been living in a dormitory for the past 3 months. A tiny, perfectly timed intake of breath on the other end. Oh, Mother, I didn't realize it had gotten that bad. Anna's always been so private about her struggles. We tried to help, you know that. She stayed with us for a while, but she left rather abruptly. We assumed she'd found something more suitable. Evelyn's tone remained level, almost conversational. The house on Evergreen Lane, it is occupied. Rent is being collected. The keys were signed for by you, Helen, 6 years ago, the day after my son's funeral. Silence stretched thin and brittle. Helen recovered quickly, too quickly. Yes, of course. Anna's living there now. She moved in right after everything settled. She's settled in quite nicely, actually. The place is perfect for Mia. Big backyard, good school district. Everything's fine. She doesn't always keep in touch. You know how independent she is. Evelyn allowed another beat of silence, long enough for the lie to echo back to its speaker. I see, she said at last. So Anna is currently residing at 1427 Evergreen Lane. Absolutely, Helen replied, the brightness in her voice now edged with something brittle. She's doing wonderfully. We're so proud of how she's managed. Another pause. Then you won't mind if I drive over there tomorrow morning, Evelyn said. I'd like to see my granddaughter in her proper home. Perhaps bring a few things she might need. The line crackled faintly. When Helen spoke again, the melody had flattened. Tomorrow might not be convenient. She has a very full schedule. Work, school drop-offs. You understand. I do, Evelyn said, which is why I will be there at 10 o'clock sharp. If Anna is not present, I will wait. If the house is not occupied by her, I will know. And if rent continues to be deposited into your account, while my granddaughter sleeps on a cot in a public shelter, her voice dropped, soft and lethal. I will know that too. Helen tried one last deflection. Mother, you're overreacting. There's been some misunderstanding. There is no misunderstanding, Evelyn cut in. There is only embezzlement and fraud, and 6 years of letting a child believe she had no roof because it was more profitable for you to collect rent from a trust that was never yours to touch. Helen said nothing. Evelyn ended the call without goodbye. She placed the phone face down on the table. For the first time since stepping out of the sedan, her shoulders relaxed a fraction, not from relief, but from the cold certainty that comes when every loose thread finally pulls taut. She had always known Helen was capable of small cruelties. She had not realized the woman was capable of this scale of calculated theft, turning grief into a revenue stream, turning a child's home into a silent ATM. Evelyn lifted the coffee cup, took one measured sip, and set it down again. The taste was bitter, but familiar. She would not shout. She would not threaten. She would simply act, with precision, with documentation, with the full weight of the family's legal machinery behind her. Tomorrow she would go to Evergreen Lane. Tomorrow the lies would collapse under their own weight. And when they did, Madam Evelyn Harrington would be standing ready, not out of sentiment, not out of forgiveness, but because some accounts, once opened, demanded to be settled in full. The black sedan did not return to Havenbrook Family Shelter that evening. Instead, after a quiet, efficient conversation in the diner parking lot, Evelyn speaking in clipped sentences to her driver, and then to a hotel concierge over the phone, Anna found herself and Mia being gently but firmly escorted into the back seat. Mia clutched her bear so tightly the stuffing bunched under one ear. Anna held her daughter's other hand, knuckles white, still trying to process the velocity at which her world had tilted. They arrived at the Meridian Grand, a discreet mid-rise hotel in the quieter part of the city where business travelers and discreet wealth overlapped. The lobby was all polished marble and soft golden light. The doorman greeted Madame Evelyn by name without surprise. No paperwork was required at the front desk. A key card appeared in Evelyn's gloved hand as if conjured, and within minutes they were riding an elevator to the 15th floor. The suite was larger than any apartment Anna had lived in since before Mia was born. 2 bedrooms, a living area with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the distant city lights, a kitchenette stocked with fresh fruit, bottled water, and child-sized snacks. Clean towels folded like origami, a small basket of toiletries still sealed in cellophane. It smelled faintly of citrus and new carpet. Evelyn set her cane against the wall with a soft click. "This is yours for as long as necessary," she said. "Room service is available 24 hours. Order whatever you like. There is a private account." She handed Anna a slim black folder containing the key card, emergency numbers, and, unexpectedly, a prepaid debit card with Anna's name embossed on it. "For incidentals, clothing, books, anything Mia needs. No questions asked." Anna stared at the card as though it might vanish. I don't know what to say." "Then say nothing," Evelyn replied. "Words are cheap. Action is expensive. You will rest tonight. Tomorrow we begin." She left without ceremony, promising to return at 9 the next morning. The door closed behind her with the quiet authority of a vault ceiling. That first night in the hotel felt surreal. Mia explored the rooms like a small explorer in a new kingdom, opening drawers, running her fingers along the smooth countertops, peering into the mini fridge with wide eyes. When she discovered the bathtub had jets, she gasped. Anna drew her a bath. Hot water that stayed hot, bubbles that smelled like vanilla. Mia sank in up to her chin, and for the first time in months, did not flinch at sudden noises from the hallway. Anna sat on the closed toilet lid and watched her daughter play. Mia hummed softly, making islands out of washcloths for her bear to sail between. There was no hurry, no line forming outside the door, no timer ticking down before someone else needed the shower. When the water cooled, Anna helped Mia into one of the hotel's thick white robes, far too big, sleeves dangling past her fingertips, and carried her to the bedroom that had been designated Mia's. The bed was enormous, sheets crisp and smelling faintly of lavender. Mia crawled under the covers, bare tucked against her chest, and looked up at Anna with an expression Anna hadn't seen in a very long time. "Mommy," she whispered, "is this our house now?" Anna smoothed the hair back from her daughter's forehead. "Not yet, sweetheart, but it's safe, and it's ours tonight, and tomorrow night, and maybe a lot of nights after that." Mia's eyes searched her mother's face for the lie she had learned to expect. Finding none, she gave a small, sleepy smile. "I like it here. It's quiet, and nobody yells." The words landed like stones in Anna's chest. She bent and kissed Mia's forehead, lingering there until the child's breathing evened into sleep. In the living room, Anna sat on the sofa with her knees drawn up and cried, quietly so as not to wake Mia. Not out of despair this time, but out of something sharper: recognition. She had spent so long braced against the next blow that she had forgotten what relaxation looked like on her daughter's face. The way Mia's shoulders had dropped when she stepped into the suite. The way she had laughed, actually laughed, when she discovered the television had every cartoon channel unlocked. The way she had fallen asleep without first checking that the door was locked twice. Trauma had settled on Mia like dust. Anna had grown so used to seeing it that she almost stopped noticing. Now, in its absence, the shape of it was painfully clear. The next morning, Madame Evelyn arrived precisely at 9, carrying 2 large shopping bags from a nearby department store. One contained new clothes for Mia, jeans that fit properly, soft sweaters, sturdy sneakers without holes. The other held items for Anna, simple but well-made pieces she would never have allowed herself to buy. Evelyn set them on the coffee table without flourish. "Try them on," she instructed. "We have work to do." Over coffee, real coffee, not the instant packets from the shelter, Evelyn laid out the plan with the calm precision of someone accustomed to boardroom battles. "Your parents," she said, "are hosting their annual family gathering in 3 weeks. A Sunday brunch at their home, the same home from which they evicted you. Invitations have already gone out. I received mine yesterday. They expect me to attend, as always." Anna's stomach tightened. "I'm not going back there." "You are not going back," Evelyn corrected. "You are going forward. We will both be there. You, Mia, and I. Together." Anna stared at her. "Why?" "Because sunlight is the best disinfectant," Evelyn said. "Because lies flourish in silence and wither under scrutiny. Because my granddaughter deserves to walk into that house on her own terms, not as a beggar at the door, but as someone who belongs there more than the people who locked it against her." She paused, letting the words settle. "And because," she continued, "I have already instructed my attorneys to prepare the necessary filings. Fraud, embezzlement, breach of fiduciary duty. The trust documents are clear. The lease is in Helen's name. The rent payments trace directly to her personal account. There will be no dramatic courtroom scene next week. No need for that yet. But there will be questions, polite ones, asked in front of cousins, aunts, uncles, neighbors. People who have always believed Helen and Richard to be pillars of generosity." Anna felt her pulse in her throat. "They'll deny everything." "They will try," Evelyn agreed. "And they will fail. I have copies of every document, signed receipts, bank statements, the certified mail receipt Helen forged your signature on 6 years ago. They will be confronted with facts, not accusations. And when the room goes quiet, Mia will be standing beside you, clean, fed, safe, and smiling. That contrast will speak louder than any affidavit. Mia wandered in then, wearing the new purple sweater, sleeves pushed up to her elbows. She climbed onto the sofa between them and leaned against Anna's side. "Grandma Evelyn?" she asked shyly. Evelyn turned to her. "Yes, darling. Are we going to see Grandma Helen and Grandpa Richard?" Evelyn considered the question. "Yes," she said at last. "But this time, you will not be asked to leave. This time, you will decide when you are ready to go." Mia nodded slowly, processing. Then she reached out and patted Evelyn's gloved hand. "Okay, but Mommy and I get to stay together. Always." Evelyn's expression softened. Just a fraction, but enough. "Always," she echoed. Anna looked from her daughter to the woman who had once dismissed her as unworthy and felt the first faint stirrings of something she had not allowed herself in years. Hope edged with steel. 3 weeks. 3 weeks to prepare. 3 weeks to rebuild what had been broken. And 3 weeks until the door that had once slammed shut in their faces would open again, not by invitation, but by the weight of truth pressing against it from the other side. 3 weeks passed in a strange, suspended rhythm at the Meridian Grand. Mornings began with room service breakfasts that arrived on trays with silver domes and fresh flowers. Afternoons were spent shopping for school supplies, reading library books borrowed from the hotel's small lending shelf, and, most importantly, watching Mia slowly unfurl. She laughed more freely now, asked questions without first glancing around for permission, slept through the night without waking in terror that the door might lock again. Anna herself began to breathe more deeply, though the knot in her chest never fully loosened. She knew the reckoning was coming. The Sunday of the family event dawned clear and cool. Madame Evelyn arrived at 8 sharp, dressed in charcoal gray wool that managed to look both understated and commanding. She carried a slim leather portfolio under one arm and a small gift bag for Mia in the other. "You are not required to speak unless you choose to," she told Anna as the sedan pulled away from the hotel curb. "You are required only to be present. Your presence is the statement." Mia, in a simple navy dress with white collar and new patent shoes, sat between them in the back seat. She held her bear, but no longer squeezed it like a lifeline. Instead, she looked out the window, humming softly to herself. The house on Maplewood Drive looked exactly as Anna remembered it. 2 stories of pale brick, manicured lawn, white shutters, a wide front porch strung with fairy lights for the occasion. Cars lined both sides of the street, cousins' SUVs, aunts' sedans, the occasional luxury model belonging to more distant relatives who still liked to be seen at these gatherings. Balloons bobbed from the mailbox. The smell of roasted ham and cinnamon rolls drifted through open windows. Inside, the air was thick with chatter, clinking glasses, and the low hum of a playlist someone had curated to sound festive without committing to any particular era. Relatives milled through the living room and dining room, balancing plates of deviled eggs and miniature quiches. Conversations paused mid-sentence when Anna stepped through the front door, Mia's hand in hers. A ripple moved through the room like wind across water. "Is that Anna?" Helen said she wasn't coming. "She looks different." Whispers followed them like shadows. Eyes darted from Anna's calm face to Mia's bright, curious one. Then to the tall, silver-haired woman who entered directly behind them, Madame Evelyn Harrington, unmistakable even to those who had never met her in person. The room temperature seemed to drop a degree. Helen appeared first, apron still tied around her waist, smile frozen in place. She had been carrying a tray of canapes. Now she set it down too quickly, the porcelain rattling. "Anna," she said, voice pitched high and thin. "And Mother! What a lovely surprise." Richard materialized at her side, face flushed beneath his carefully combed hair. "We didn't expect—" "You invited me," Evelyn reminded him, tone mild. I accepted, and I brought guests. Mia tugged Anna's hand and pointed toward the dessert table. Mommy, there's cupcakes with sprinkles. Go on, sweetheart, Anna murmured. I'll be right here. Mia hesitated only a second before skipping off toward the sweets, already smiling at a second cousin who waved shyly. Helen's gaze followed the child, then snapped back to Anna. You shouldn't have brought her without telling us. We have a certain atmosphere here. Anna met her mother's eyes. She's family. She belongs here more than anyone. Richard cleared his throat. Let's not make a scene in front of everyone. Evelyn stepped forward, just enough to draw every eye in the room. She opened the portfolio with a soft snap and withdrew a thin stack of papers. Copies, not originals, but crisp and official-looking. There will be no scene, she said quietly. There will be clarity. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. The room had already gone still. I have spent the past month reviewing certain documents, Evelyn continued. Deeds, trust disbursements, lease agreements, payment records, all quite illuminating. Helen's hand rose to her throat. Mother, this is hardly the time. It is precisely the time, Evelyn said. Because for 6 years, rent has been collected on a property that was deeded to Anna the day after my son died. Keys were signed for by you, Helen. Payments deposited into your personal account. While my granddaughter slept in a shelter dormitory, you profited from the home that was legally hers. A gasp rippled through the gathered relatives. Someone set a glass down too hard. It cracked against the table. Richard's face had gone the color of old parchment. That's a misunderstanding. We were holding it for her. Protecting it. Protecting it, Evelyn repeated, letting the word hang. By forging a signature on a certified mail receipt, by telling Anna the estate was insolvent, by evicting her and her child from your home when she dared to assert independence. Yes, quite protective. Helen tried to laugh, a brittle, failing sound. You're exaggerating. Anna has always been dramatic. She left of her own accord. Anna spoke then, voice steady for the first time in years. I left because you put our belongings in garbage bags and locked the door behind us at 10 o'clock at night, with nowhere to go. Mia was 6. She cried on the sidewalk while you turned off the porch light. The silence that followed was absolute. A great aunt in the corner began to cry quietly. Several younger cousins stared at Helen and Richard as though seeing them for the first time. Evelyn closed the portfolio. My attorneys have already filed the necessary notices. Replevine for the property. Demand for accounting of trust funds. Civil suit for fraud and conversion. Criminal referral is pending review by the district attorney. You will have ample opportunity to explain yourselves. To lawyers, to judges, perhaps to investigators. She turned to Anna. The house on Evergreen Lane will be restored to you by week's end. The locks are being changed this afternoon. Any possessions still inside will be inventoried and returned. Helen's knees buckled. Richard caught her elbow. Neither spoke. Evelyn looked around the room, at the stunned faces, the half-eaten plates, the suddenly awkward festive decorations. This gathering, she said, was meant to celebrate family. Let it serve that purpose now. Let it be the last time lies are permitted to wear the mask of generosity. She turned to Mia, who had returned to Anna's side, holding a cupcake with pink frosting. Evelyn knelt, something she almost never did, and spoke directly to the child. Would you like to see your new house, darling? It has a swing set in the backyard, and your own room with windows that look out over trees. Mia considered the cupcake, then looked up at Evelyn. Can Mommy come too? Always, Evelyn said. Mia nodded once, decisively. Okay. Anna lifted her daughter into her arms. Mia rested her head on her mother's shoulder, frosting smudged on her cheek, utterly unconcerned with the adults frozen around them. As they walked toward the door, relatives parted without being asked. No one tried to stop them. No one dared speak. Outside, the October air was crisp and clean. The sedan waited at the curb, engine purring softly. Evelyn paused on the porch, glanced back once at the house she had known for decades, then followed Anna and Mia down the steps. The door closed behind them. Not slammed, not locked, just closed. Inside, the party continued in stunned fragments, but the music had stopped. The laughter had dried up, and the fairy lights on the porch flickered uncertainly, as though unsure whether they still belonged to the same story. In the back seat of the sedan, Mia fell asleep against Anna's side, cupcake wrapper still clutched in her small fist. Anna looked out the window at the passing streets and, for the first time in years, allowed herself to imagine a future that did not begin with survival. Behind them, reputations that had stood for decades began, quietly and irreversibly, to collapse. And ahead lay a house on Evergreen Lane, empty no longer, waiting,